Hello and welcome. Have you ever wondered how medical device companies ensure that their medical device is safe for their patients? We rarely hear about like a severe catastrophe that happened because of a medical device. So you might be wondering why we don't hear a lot of severity or casualty happening from the medical device more often, right? Um, it is not happening because we have something called ISO 14971 that most of the companies follow to reduce risk or to manage the risk from their medical device. So in today's lecture, we'll dive deeper into what ISO 14971 is and its applications. So that being said, what is ISO 14971? It is a risk management standard that a company called ISO had created for all the medical device companies to help them manage the risk associated with their medical device, right? This standard is specifically to manage risk for medical device. So let's look at an example. Imagine you're designing a new medical devices, let's say a heart monitor, right? You want to make sure your heart monitor works, all the functionality on your heart monitor works, but you also want to make sure that your device is safe for your patient, right? And when it gets used, it does not harm your patient. That's very important. So ISO 14971 is like a handbook that any of the medical device companies can use to help them manage all types of risk that is associated with their devices. And this standard is an internationally recognized standard that guides you through identifying the risk on your medical devices, analyzing those risks, evaluating them, and putting control measures so that those risks are minimized to as low as possible or even mitigated in some instances, right? So that's the essence of ISO 14971. Now you may be wondering, why is this standard important? Why one has to follow this standard, right? Think about it. Medical devices have a lot of different parts involved, and it can be very complex when it makes a medical device. And even a small issues, even a software bug or even missing screws can have serious consequences for your patient. And ISO 14971 helps medical device companies be proactive and helps them to prevent problems before they even arise, right? This not only helps your patients to be healthy, but it also saves your time and money by avoiding costly designs, and it also helps to get your device in the market faster by getting it approved if your device is very risk-free or have very less risk, right? So you may ask, what kind of medical devices this standard covers, right? Basically, ISO 14971 is very thorough and comprehensive, and it is made to cover all the medical device that there exist, right? So this covers even small things like syringes or even band-aids, right? Or it covers complex medical devices such as surgical robots or even X-ray machine. So literally, in essence, you can apply risk management standard to all the medical devices. In fact, some companies use risk management ISO 14971 on pharmaceutical industry and even in cosmetics, just FYI, right? And on top of that, risk management standard, this ISO 14971 can be utilized in any life cycle of your medical device, whether you are starting your medical device and you're in design phase, or you're already in production, or you're trying to retire a medical device. It is applicable in all different life cycle, right? So that's a little background of ISO 14971. Now let's talk about the key concepts. So there are some key concepts that you need to know and be familiar with to be successful in risk management. There is a tons of them that is listed directly on the ISO standard, but in today's lecture we'll be talking about three major key concepts, right? Those key concepts would be hazard, hazardous situation, and harm, right? If you learn these three, you'll be using this in all your documents such as PFMEA, DFMEA, so you'll be really good on that. So what is hazard, you may ask? Hazard is anything that could potentially cause harm to your patient, right? if your device have like a sharp edges on it, and when your device is getting administered, if it nicks your patient, then that's a hazard right there, right? And what is hazardous situation? So hazardous situation is a circumstance when someone could be harmed by the hazard present on your medical device, right? For example, in your medical device, you already had a sharp edge, right? Just having a sharp edge does not affect anyone. But if that sharp edge were to touch a nurse, or if it were to touch your patients and create a bruise or create scabbing, then that is hazardous situation, right? What situation is it creating, causing the harm? That's a hazardous situation. And the third risk is third one in my list is a risk, right? So what is risk? Risk is a little complicated definition. It's basically, it's a product of how severe the harm is and how likely it's going to happen, right? So severe meaning how serious the injury is going to be, and how likely that same hazard is going to occur in the field. So if you have a high severity risk, like accident that could like take a life, and if it happens a lot from your device, then that's a very high risk situation. So you need to reduce that risk to as low as possible. Okay, we'll talk about risk control, risk analysis, and everything in very in depth, and we'll also talk about other key concepts, but I just wanted to give this familiarity, right? So that being said, we talked about the key concepts, what ISO 14971 is. Now let's look at a real life example, right, to understand what we just learned. So imagine you're like a design engineer and you're designing a new insulin pump, right? One of the potential hazard that your insulin pump might have is electrical malfunction. When that happens, it delivers a wrong dose of insulin to the patient, right? For example, if a person selected 2 milliliter of insulin, because of that malfunction, now they're getting 10 milliliters of insulin. And as you can already tell, that could be really fatal for your patients, right? Because they're not getting the desired dose of insulin that they wanted. By following the ISO 14971 in your company, you will be able to analyze these types of risk and evaluate how severe this risk is and implement a control measures, right? For example, you could put a redundant safety circuit or something of that nature to reduce the risk of happening those to reduce the risk of occurring those kind of malfunctions in the future. So I know that's a mouthful and it was a lot of information, but we'll discuss all of this in great detail. I just wanted to give a little overview. So to summarize, ISO 14971 is a great tool that any medical device company can use to reduce their risk from their devices to as low as possible. Using the standard not only helps your patient to be risk-free while using your device, but it also gives you more money and time by basically reducing all the risk in the earlier phase, right? So that's all I have for this video. I'll see you guys in the next video where I'll be going deeper into the scope and applicability of ISO 14971, and throughout this lecture series we'll basically dissect the ISO standard 2019 version or even later versions, and basically look at all the 4 stages of risk management, that is risk analysis, risk evaluation, risk control, post-production activities, and basically we'll follow the information from our guide, and I'll make sure that you'll be successful in your role as a risk management engineer and be able to apply risk management standard and principles in your company. So that being said, I'll see you guys in the next lecture where we'll dive deeper into scope and applicability of ISO 14971. Thank you.